Quiet cutting. Bro, let's have this conversation immediately. A couple of weeks ago, we reacted to a video called Quiet Quitting. And, people in the comments were like, this is something that they have been doing forever, right? I've never heard of this thing. I thought when you went to work, you worked as hard as you possibly could so you could advance. But apparently, companies are not trying to advance people at the rate that they used to, right? So people that in return have been quiet quitting. And of course, when you start bringing something like this to the mainstream and then you see a lot of the heads of corporations hearing about this, they're just like, okay, cool. Well, we're going to create something called quiet cutting. Guys, oh my God. So what they're doing is they're basically headhunting the people in their corporations that are quiet quitting, right? They're the ones who turn their phone off at 3:30 or at 5:30. They no longer can be reached. These are the ones who are not excelling at their job. They're just maintaining it. There's never any growth, right? So they're headhunting them and being like, hey, listen, I'm not going to fire you because I don't want to give you any severance pay because you quiet quit on me. So what I'm going to do now is, how about this? Janitor position just opened up, right? That type of thing. They're basically moving them to lower positions in their companies so they can pay them less. And listen, you still have a job. You can quiet quit on that job. It's fine. And that's basically what companies are doing. So instead of firing you and giving you severance pay or firing you and allowing you to get some type of unemployment, they're saying, I'm going to give you this job now. Either you're going to work it or you're going to quit. And if you quit, what happens to your unemployment? You don't get it, right? So I knew something crazy like this was going to happen. And of course, it's happening around this time. Also, keep this in mind. A lot of these corporations are running up onto having to refinance after these 10 years. The buildings themselves have gone up in value, so they're going to have to refinance for things that are not worth it, right? So they're looking to cut costs all across the board. And so, of course, they're now sitting in the boardrooms like, let's get rid of all the quiet quitters, right? And, guys, I wish I would have known about this a long time ago. I would have been talking about it, letting people know as much as I can, like, bro, there are going to be repercussions. And these are the repercussions. They're going to put you in a menial position much lower than whatever degree you had, and then say, I'm not firing you, I'm just lowering your place at this job. Right? You still have a job with us. Don't worry. You're going to come bright and early, 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow to clean the office. Right? Whoa. All right. But either way, so the name of the video is Quiet Cutting, how power in U.S. offices may be shifting back to the bosses. The economy has done this, guys. I'm telling you, the economy and inflation absolutely has made this happen. There was, at one time, the employees basically had the run of things, right? They did, but now, not in this economy, right? Like the only thing keeping people employed is this quiet cutting thing. And that's not really a good sign for the economy, because if we're trying to fix inflation, bring inflation back down to 2-3%, right, up from 9% last year, guys. If we're trying to fix inflation, there has to, sadly, be a lot more unemployed people. And that is literally right now what Jerome Powell is looking to do, right? So if more people were fired, which would be absolutely terrifying, obviously, there would be more people. Well, there'll be more of a reason to lower the overall interest rates for commercial real estate and obviously, personal real estate, which then in return would make everything more affordable for everyone. But that's a hard thing to ask for or pray for, in a sense, guys. You can't really say, we need 50 million people to lose their jobs tomorrow. But so now these companies are technically keeping them employed, but really underemployed, right? But all right, let's check out this video, guys.
Hey, so I have good and bad news. Which do you want to hear first?
What's the bad news?
Your current role has been eliminated.
Okay, what's the good news?
You're being reassigned.
This is an example of quiet cutting. a new workplace trend that's been dominating the headlines.
We've talked about quiet quitting. Now there's a new trend, quiet cutting.
A new trend is here, quiet cutting.
Some bosses have been trying out a new technique called quiet cutting.
Quiet cutting is restructuring and reassigning the roles and responsibilities for a completely different thing by not giving them layoff and portraying like, we have something for you, we'll take care of you. Here is the job, take it or leave it. And that basically is avoiding layoff in certain scenarios.
And this is what's messing us up. Avoiding the layoffs also, but mainly avoiding severance pay. Like having not to pay someone severance pay because they quit is crazy. All right? It's absolutely brutal. It's making the company look like trash. Also keep this in mind. The company is purposely keeping people underemployed to force them to quit. That's what they're doing, guys.
By the employer to employee.
For the past few years, we have seen quiet quitting. We've seen the Great Resignation.
Right.
And all of this was a sign of a strong economy, a strong labor market, tight labor market. Employees
Guys, do you know how you know someone went to Yale? They'll tell you.
had the upper hand. Quiet cutting is a suggestion that the tables are starting to turn, that employers are starting to have that upper hand now.
Quiet cutting is just a buzzword term, but reorgs, when a company reorganizes their internal system and team,
it's been going on for a while.
It's not new.
Right.
It's not a new concept.
But in this, their current strategy is new. This is savagery, guys.
Reorgs have historically either been made to benefit the company, but have historically always frustrated employees. It is being highlighted as a different aspect of the mass layoffs and changes in the field of work that we're seeing.
This is Matt Conrad. He's been reassigned twice at IBM. He ended up with a job he loves, but the reassignment process took a toll.
Yeah, so I was actually reassigned, I think, twice in 366 days. And unfortunately, I live with mental health disabilities and major depression, complex PTSD, and anxiety disorder. And all three kind of kicked in simultaneously. And I started having panic attacks on really a twice-a-day basis. And ended up taking short-term disability to make sure I protected my mental health.
IBM isn't alone in having employees reassigned to new roles. Big-name companies like Adidas, Adobe, and Salesforce have been enforcing large-scale reassignments.
Yeah, guys, Adobe currently has been probably the most savage out of all of them. Like, I understand they want to call out IBM for some reason, guys, but Adobe has been wild, guys. Unnecessary. Like, as soon as they finished that, like, Photoshop beta, where they allowed, all of the users to basically use AI in all their images and things like that, right after that, quiet cutting.
Also, LinkedIn research published in May found that hiring has continued to slow in many countries, but internal mobility is trending upwards in several industries. Some economists say that despite the overall U.S. job market remaining strong, companies are fearful of what lies ahead, so they're resorting to the quiet cutting tactic.
Quiet cutting is happening because companies are fearful of what's coming down the pipe.
And keep in mind, guys, they're all trying to make sure that they have a solid float. Like float meaning kind of like petty cash, but not really, right? Just float, like a float income. They're trying to make sure they have a gigantic amount of money in their bank account so they don't have to continuously give it out just in case something actually happens and they need to basically bring their company back up from the dirt, guys. That's basically what that is. They're trying to stay alive, but they're absolutely hurting the employees that work for them.
Is happening because companies are fearful of what's coming down the pipe. They're fearful that the economy will go into recession or that they will run into economic headwinds. And they are concerned that they're going to have to cut down the line. And so this is a little bit of insurance for them.
Yeah.
The other thing it does is it potentially saves employers money, because if you have to do a major layoff, then you have to pay severance. There's all sorts of other financial issues that come into play that will cost you money. So this is sort of a way to have some savings and hopefully get rid of some employees. It's really unfortunate.
By literally forcing them to quit.
It does not reflect well on the companies, and
no,
it really
it makes them
is
look
very
bad.
harmful to employee morale.
So one of the things that typically happens during business cycles is this process that economists refer to as creative destruction. So as we figure out what the next step is, when you see demand slowing down, what's the new product you're going to release? You want to create, but then in order to create, you need to cut costs. And that's part of the destruction. So really, businesses are trying to optimize for the future. And that results in these things that we call reorganizations that are often being referred to as quiet cutting.
Quiet cutting done right is a great way for employers to have that employee engagement, employee satisfaction. But if the quiet cutting is done the wrong way, it impacts the mental health, it impacts the employee engagement, it impacts the reputations for employers as well. So they really have to think it through.
Guys, when it comes to like doing it right though, I think the only way to do it right, honestly, is that if your company is a company that works on big projects and you're hiring people, because you have a big project, so you have multiple people working under you, right? As soon as that contract ends and then you pick up another contract, but you need that person in a different position on another contract and they're going to be paid the same type of thing, but they're going to be in a different position, that's probably the only way this works positively. Any other way is craziness, guys. I'm telling you, you might as well. But I mean, I get it. They don't want to fire him because why would they? Then they have to pay severance. And they don't want to pay severance. They want you to quit. So you kind of give up on all of that. They basically are kind of torturing you a little bit, right?
The quiet cutting is the right
That's
approach
what's happening.
to go
That's what
by
it feels
right
like,
now,
at least,
or
I'm sure.
maybe layoff it is, because they really have to think it out if it's the right approach.
For me, what I learned is you have to go through the process of grieving, of being angry, of loss, and then see what doors will open up, see what windows will open up. I never would have thought I would have ended up on this team. I never would have thought I would work for a manager who really has my back and supports me. And now both those statements are true. I love what I do, and I love who I work for. I would encourage all employers to consider the pros and cons, and if anything else can or should be done. Perhaps, giving an employee an option between two roles, if that's a possibility, or even saying, hey, would you like a severance package of some sort, or would you like to be reassigned?
That sounds great, but they're not going to do it. I'm telling you, they don't want to pay the severance. Why would they want to pay the severance?
Just giving employees some say in the process, I think, would make them feel more comfortable about the whole thing. Like,
it would be great if they did. Of course, IBM didn't respond. Why would they? Come on. You didn't even have to write that. All right, guys, listen, it's a terrible thing that is happening these days. But listen, times are getting really hard for everyone, including the companies that had to kind of bring up the minimum wage to 15. All of these companies are suffering, specifically now. Even I would say their float is almost none, right? And then honestly, to know that they're gonna have to refinance at a crazier interest rate. Oh yeah, guys, this is the reason why a lot of these companies are closing. A lot of companies are closing and going bankrupt right now for a reason, guys. I'm telling you. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly. If you guys are new here, please like and subscribe. Catch you guys later.